There is a melody you have known your entire life. Your grandmother sang it to you when you were a child. Her voice, that tune, those exact notes burned into your memory. Now imagine you travel back in time. You find your grandmother as a little girl, and you sing it to her. She grows up, she sings it to your mother sings it to you, and one day you travel back and sing it to her. Who wrote the lullaby? Most time travel paradoxes break things. You go back, kill your grandfather, now you were never born. Contradiction. Timeline collapses. The Bootstrap Paradox is the opposite. Nothing breaks, the timeline holds, the logic is airtight, and that is exactly what makes it worse. Because the question it asks is not whether time travel creates problems, it is something else entirely. Something that, by the end of this, you will not be able to stop thinking about. Here is the scenario. Your grandmother had a lullaby. She sang it to your mother. Your mother sang it to you. You know every note, every pause, every rise and fall. It is one of the most intimate things you carry. Now you get a time machine. You travel back 60 years and find your grandmother as a little girl, before she ever heard the melody. You sit down and sing it to her. She learns it, she grows up, she sings it to your mother sings it to you. You grow up, get the time machine, and go back to sing it to her. Loop closed. No contradiction. She sings it because you taught her. You know it because she sang it to you. So who composed the lullaby? The name comes from an old expression, pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps, doing the impossible, creating something from nothing. The formal version of this problem did not come from a philosopher. It came from a science fiction writer, Robert Heinlein, in 1941. But here's the part most people miss. Physicists took it seriously. In 1991, Igor Novikov at the University of Copenhagen proposed the Novikov self-consistency principle. The idea is simple and unsettling. If time travel exists, only self-consistent events can happen. The universe does not allow contradictions. Period. That sounds reassuring until you realize what it means. If the universe enforces consistency, then causal loops aren't just possible, they're protected. The Bootstrap Paradox is not a bug in time travel. Under Novikov, it's a feature. And that brings you back to the lullaby. It exists. You have heard it your whole life. It has notes, rhythm, pauses, a specific sequence of choices that produce something tender and beautiful. But if your grandmother only knows it because you sang it to her, and you only know it because she sang it to you, then nobody composed it. Nobody ever hummed the first few notes and thought, yes, that is how it goes. The melody has no author. It appeared from nowhere. Here's where your brain goes wrong. You're assuming everything needs a first cause. Somebody had to compose the lullaby. There had to be a moment, a first moment when those notes did not exist, and then someone created them. Your brain demands an origin, a composer, a beginning. The Bootstrap Paradox says, what if there is no beginning? The melody just exists inside the loop, uncreated, no author, no first moment. Not because we cannot find the origin, because there is no origin to find. That's the trap. You're taking a rule from your everyday life. Every effect has a cause, every creation has a creator, and forcing it onto a system where that rule doesn't hold. Inside a causal loop, the question, where did this come from, doesn't have a hidden answer. The question itself stops making sense. Once you see this, it gets worse. Think about what that lullaby actually is. It's not just sound, it's a sequence of decisions. This note, not that one. This pause, not that one. Every choice precise enough to make a 3-year-old feel safe in the dark. In normal reality, those choices come from a mind, someone humming, adjusting, deciding, yes, that feels right. In the loop, no mind made those choices. Ever. The melody just circulates, perfectly intact, authorless. And this doesn't only work with lullabies. It works with Beethoven's Fifth. It works with the theory of relativity. It works with any piece of information complex enough to feel like it must have been created by a genius. In a causal loop, genius is optional. The information needs no creator. And if you think this is just a clever thought experiment, something physicists doodle on napkins and forget about, It's not, because they've found something that makes it much harder to wave away. If this is the kind of thing that makes your brain itch, subscribe because it gets much stranger than this. You're sitting with a melody that nobody wrote, a lullaby your grandmother sang that has no composer. That's where you are right now, and you're not ready for what comes next. In 1991, the same year Novikov published his principle, physicist Kip Thorne at Caltech showed that closed time-like curves are permitted by general relativity, not as speculation, as math. Einstein's equations do not forbid paths through spacetime that loop back on themselves. Read that again. The laws of physics as we currently understand them do not rule out information existing without ever being created. This is not philosophy anymore. This is what the equations allow. So the lullaby has no author, physics doesn't prevent it, and the timeline stays perfectly consistent the entire time. Feel that? That discomfort? Good. Hold on to it. Here's the part most people miss entirely. The Bootstrap Paradox doesn't just break your assumption about time, it breaks your assumption about creation. Think about anything you've ever made. An essay, a painting, a joke you told a friend. You believe you created it. There was a moment it didn't exist, and then, because of you, it did. But how do you know? How do you know your ideas aren't just information moving through some loop you can't see? How do you know the thought you had this morning, the one that felt so original, so yours, was not always going to arrive in that exact brain, at that exact moment, for reasons that have nothing to do with you? The paradox doesn't question where your grandmother's lullaby came from, it questions where anything comes from. Every idea, every invention, every spark of what you call originality. Creation itself becomes an open question. There are a few ways out of this. None of them are comfortable. Some physicists say the Bootstrap Paradox is proof that backwards time travel is impossible. If causal loops create uncaused information, and that violates fundamental physics, then the universe must prevent it. Stephen Hawking called this the chronology protection conjecture. The laws of physics conspire to block time travel before paradoxes like this can form. Others take Novikov's line. Causal loops are fine. Information doesn't need an origin. Our demand for a first cause is a human bias, not a law of nature. The universe is not obligated to give everything a beginning. Some things just are. If you find that unsatisfying, that's a problem with your intuition, not with reality. And then there's a third position, the one that keeps philosophers awake. Maybe the question, where did it come from, isn't a real question. Maybe causation, the idea that every effect needs a cause, is a story that works in everyday life but falls apart at the edges of physics. And the honest answer is not one explanation over another. The honest answer is we don't have the framework to ask the question yet. Here's what you won't be able to unnotice. Tomorrow morning, you will have an idea. Could be a good one. It will feel like yours, your experience, your creativity, your memories, your brain doing what brains do. But now there's this question living underneath every thought you'll ever have. Did you create it, or was it always going to arrive right then, right there, passed along by some chain of causes you'll never see the beginning of? You'll think about your grandmother, you'll think about that melody, and you'll wonder if the warmest, most personal thing she ever gave you was something that nobody ever made. And if uncreated information unsettles you, there's a paradox that goes even further, one that suggests you, not your ideas, not your memories, but you, the person watching this right now, might not have an origin either. But that is something else entirely.